The majority of people in the world abide by a fairly conventional approach to living, which includes getting a house, a job, a car, and maybe even a cat. But for a minority of people out there, an ordinary life is too boring, and they instead opt to live in some truly strange and unorthodox ways. From a human dog to a real-life superhero, here are 10 people who choose to live in strange ways. Number 10. Man lives in a sandcastle. Whenever you take a stroll on the beach, it's hard not to notice enthusiastic kids building sandcastles who usually joke about one day living in one. For one man, this turned out to be real. Marcio Matolius has lived in his massive sandcastle on one of Rio de Janeiro's pristine beaches for a staggering 22 years. Although it doesn't sound particularly luxurious, the sandcastle is surprisingly safe to live in and securely held up with a driftwood frame. Inside lies a cozy 3-foot by 3-foot space full of secondhand books and other items. You can probably guess where the toilet is. After receiving a book on Spanish architect Antoni Gaudí, Marcio was inspired to learn how to build sandcastles, and he clearly became an expert at it. Marcio doesn't pay a penny for rent, and he makes money for food by running a secondhand bookshop from his sandy home. So many books get left on the beach, so it makes perfect sense that Marcio would capitalize on it. Life can be a beach for Marcio though, as the elements can easily destroy his creation, and he must maintain his castle's impressive integrity by keeping it watered daily to prevent it from caving in. Number 9. Furries. The term furries is often associated with animal enthusiasts dressing up as overly exaggerated animal mascots who should really belong at a sports event. However, there's much more to the bizarre subculture. Furries tend to spend days making their own costumes or even spend a fortune buying a specifically tailored costume. But why is looking like a furry so important to these individuals? For some furries, it's an easier way to make friends, in particular at furry conventions, which is where most furries get the opportunity to congregate. Dressed as giant cats, dogs, parrots, and basically anything else they can think of, their new persona actually encourages communication as well as heaps of compliments from other like-minded furries who appreciate the hard work taken towards the costume. For other furries, it's a creative outlet and a way to express yourself that you wouldn't be able to in your normal, everyday life. Number 8. RealLife Leopard in Scotland. Tired of the hustle and bustle of city life, one Scottish man decided to live in complete isolation, which is understandable if you also happen to look like a leopard. Mr. Leopard, or also known as Tom, was at one point the most tattooed man in the world with 99.2% of his body covered in ink. He opted to have the mad makeover not because he's a big cat fan, but because they were easy for a tattoo artist to do. After making money from appearing on TV and attending events, fame and fortune took its toll on Tom and he disappeared to live in a remote stone cottage for 20 years. Tom had previously spent a considerable amount of time in the army, so he was conditioned to spending a lot of time alone and hated city life. So you can imagine the leopard man of Skye was feline fine once he got back into the wild. However, life in the wild eventually became too much for Tom, and he finally returned to civilization at 73 and became domesticated once more. Number 7. The baby that never grew up. Age play is a bizarre form of BDSM, or role play between couples, in which a grown man or woman dresses and acts like a baby while their partner takes care of them. The couples who partake in such an activity may do so for a few hours, though for one 21-year-old woman in Florida, it's a lifestyle. Jess will typically spend her day dressed in a diaper, which she may or may not urinate in, but no number 2s. That's apparently going too far, says Jess. The reason why Jess enjoys living as a baby is because she can act cute and playful. She explains that wearing baby clothes and diapers is a type of regressive behavior that is also comforting to her. And while she calls her boyfriend daddy and drinks from a bottle, Jess and her boyfriend David's age play isn't sexualized in any way. Number 6. The real-life Little Mermaid. They say find a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life, and for one fortunate Australian, she does exactly that. 33-year-old Hannah Fraser works as a professional mermaid at the Sydney Aquarium. From a young age, she has always had a passion for them. At age 9, she made her first tail, and her second tail was made in 2002 using a wetsuit material, 2 coat hangers, flippers, and duct tape. Hannah had been primarily working in fashion modeling for over 10 years. However, there are a few things about her that signify that maybe she really is a mermaid. Hannah can hold her breath for 2 minutes, has a scuba diving qualification, and has swum alongside whales, sea lions, and dolphins. If that's not the life of a real mermaid, then I don't know what is. Number 5. Superheroes not in comics. The idea of being a superhero is pretty cool, But in reality, none of us have the money, skills, or sex appeal to do it. But that doesn't mean they still don't exist. Take for example the Night Warrior, a 19-year-old superhero who helped drunk people as they left pubs and gave food to the homeless. The only thing Night Warrior has is a flashy costume, but he states that's exactly what he needs to get people's attention, often stunning them with his magnificent allure. Night Warrior has no combat training, gadgets, or weapons and lives at home with his mom, but that didn't stop him from being a real-life superhero. What did stop him, however, was being attacked by Yobs, who recognized him out of character. It was then that he gave up his cape. On the other side of the spectrum comes Phoenix Jones, who's probably the closest thing to a real superhero you can get. Based in Seattle, 22-year-old Benjamin Fodor decided one day to become Phoenix Jones after his car was broken into and no bystanders present attempted to intervene. Phoenix Jones's costume is equipped with a bulletproof vest and armor plating, though he might not even need it since he's a professional MMA fighter too. Number 4. The Man Who Cried Wolf. In fairy tales, wolves are often depicted as aggressive, dangerous animals that you most certainly would not want to encounter during a walk through a forest on a Sunday evening. Sure, these stories are designed to scare kids and maybe adults, but they're not enough for one person in particular. Sean Ellis always had a fascination with the natural world, but it wasn't until he read about a wolf research center in Idaho that he decided he wanted to actually go and live with them. Sean sold everything he owned for a plane fare, worked on the reservation, and learned how to track and collect data about wolves. After a couple of years, Sean then decided to get a little closer and moved into the wild. Staying in a den area, a remote spot where wolves look after their young, Sean was able to integrate into one pack effectively. The wolves would bring Sean raw deer and elk, which he thankfully ate, or sometimes even fruit and berries. His body adapted to his new diet quickly, and he claims he never got ill. After a year staying with the same pack, Sean returned back to the modern world as he had lost a lot of weight and he felt it was time to return back to society. The experience taught him a great deal about wolves, which enabled him to run his own center that aids wild and captive wolves. Number 3. The Barefoot Sensei. There's no denying the benefits of exploring a forest. Fresh air, free food growing everywhere, and a great place to read a book in peace. These were some of the perks that made one man decide to make the forest his home. Mick Dodge, fed up of living in a stressful, hectic world that the rest of us are stuck in, decided one day to give it up and go live in the middle of the forest, in a tree stump to be exact. Mick is nicknamed the Barefoot Sensei since he doesn't wear shoes while walking around the forest. He stopped wearing footwear entirely way back in 1991 and claims this has healed his plantar fasciitis, hammer toes, and back pain. Mick is a huge advocate for going barefoot. He reckons it helps increase your senses and strengthens your bond with nature. While the majority of us couldn't hack more than 1 hour in a forest or 2 minutes without Wi-Fi, Mick loves it and plans to never return to his old lifestyle anytime soon. To keep dry, Mick wears plastic garments, which he stipulates is the key to living in the forest. Number 2. The Record-Breaking Lizard Man. Getting a tattoo normally has a significant reason behind the decision. A permanent reminder for something that's happened in your life, or a reminder of someone close to your heart. Then again, it might have something to do with expressing yourself that you could never do before, and that's where the Lizard Man comes in. Also known as Eric Sprague, he's done a number of unusual things to himself to appear like a lizard, or close enough to one if you squint a little. With over 700 hours of tattooing completed on his body, filed teeth, subdermal implants in his eyebrows, and a bifurcated tongue, you would think he was Killer Croc from Suicide Squad. Eric loves being a lizard and made the decision to undergo his transformation over 20 years ago. Not only does he look cool, he can also do cool stuff too. Eric performs sideshow acts such as pushing a giant corkscrew through his head, sword swallowing, and he also currently has the Guinness World Record for the heaviest weight lifted and spun with pierced ears, which was a 16-kilogram beer keg. That's one pretty cool party trick. Number 1. Every dog has its day. To live life as a dog is appealing, to say the least. Not only do you get to pee in public, but random strangers might even give you free food just because you look cute, which might partly explain why there are people out there who dress and live as dogs, even going so far as living in packs, playing with squeaky toys, and probably sniffing each other's butts. This subculture grew out of the BDSM community and since the last 15 years has gained momentum thanks to the internet making it easier to find like-minded individuals. The general attire of a human pup is wearing a leather costume with a dog-like hood or mask. The human pups enjoy stomach rubs, ear tickling, and eating out of bowls, just like humans. In Antwerp, there is also a Mr. Puppy competition. Think of it as a mix between a beauty pageant and Crufts. One reason why people choose to pretend to be be a puppy or dog is that it focuses on the positive elements of a dog, aspects such as loyalty and affection that you wouldn't find if you dressed as a frog or hippo. Another reason is that pretending to be a dog is like a form of escapism for some who wish to escape their monotonous everyday life. So do you see the appeal in becoming one of these strange alter egos? And if not, which do you think is the strangest? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.